Hey everyone, Chris here from National Parents Organization, and today I'm here with Emma, and she's the wealthy single mommy, and she's just wrote a book, The New 50/50 Solution, and we're so excited to hear about that. Emma, thanks so much for coming on.
Thanks for having me again. I always love talking to you, Chris.
Well, we love having you, and for those that haven't seen your previous episodes that we've done with you, just kind of give me the kind of high level tour of how you got involved with being the wealthy single mommy and how you came to support shared parenting.
Yeah, so gosh, 12 years ago or so, I was working as a journalist and going through a divorce. And I just sort of started a personal blog because I had a lot to say. I was very interested in gender equality personally, written about gender and um, financial journalist. So just money and women and family was always just my professional and personal interest. And when I went through my divorce, it was probably not too dissimilar from my parents' divorce, even though this was 15 years ago. My parents divorced a couple generations ago now. And it was like the kids were going to stay with me. The kids were going to visit their dad. I was financially dependent on him, and that's just how it was going to be. So I started writing about this, and it was just this very interesting personal experience getting these ideas out in the world, blogging, you work in social media, immediate feedback. So I just followed down this path in my public life about hearing all these stories from moms who were overwhelmed. I would hear from dads who were missing out on their kids' lives. And then I was living through it too. And while I felt like I, succeeded at divorce, I was really pissed off because I was overwhelmed and I had the kids majority of the time, which I fought for. I was like, what kind of hypocrite am I? And oh, P.S., what kind of hypocrite are like all these other women? But I've gone through every iteration. I was really angry at women for a long time, probably just reflection of being angry at myself for getting it wrong. Um, I've come to this idea, like I really kind of changed, I completely changed my tune. I it's really about the research. It's about common sense. And I was just kind of like living and breathing this both in my personal life and in my public life. And this is really just out of my activism. So I have a business now. My personal blog, wealthysinglemommy.com, is turned into a commercial business. So I run that as a business. And this is really outside of that. I mean, this actually costs me money and energy. And this is something I really believe in. So I felt like there was a real space out there where this movement could talk to people like the movement that existed. I couldn't find a home. I met all kinds of people, wonderful people. We all cared about the same thing. We wanted equality in families for all different reasons. People had different emphasis that they were going after. Men's rights, people hated feminism, they thought the courts were horrible. Like, it's all kind of right. There's truth in all of it, and people come to it with their own personal experiences. But I wasn't really finding a home for myself, right? I identify as a progressive feminist. I'm very now I've come to the point where I really think we really owe empathy to everybody. We are all products of our time and place, right? My mother, like my friends who are maybe doing divorce not quite right today, we are all informed by our people around us, our culture, our laws, our personal experiences. We're all human. And the men, what the women will tell me is, well, yeah, I want him to be more involved, with the dad to be more involved, but he won't show up. That is true. I think that is happening in equal measures as women keeping their kids from their dads in equal time. Anecdotally, I believe those are happening in equal numbers. And that is happening. We have not nurtured men as fathers. We have marginalized men as fathers. And that is a giant travesty that is actually having an exciting moment and getting a lot of attention right now. So I come at it and I try to come at it with love and bringing people together and not demonizing people. Most people are good people and they love their children and they love the other gender, and romantically or otherwise, we are good souls on this planet and we just need a little guidance. We need some insight into the research out there, and we need a positive message about why this is not such a big deal. And we can just live together and share the kids, and the kids thrive, and we can get on with it already.
So it's interesting. I mean, you mentioned that you're a progressive feminist, and I want to dig into that a little bit, and really, how have your views on equality between the sexes kind of changed since since you got divorced, and now you've kind of gone through this a little bit, and now you've wrote a book, 50/50, which I think a lot of people that identify as feminists would not agree with. So I want to dig into a little bit. How have your views changed, and was there any sort of defining moments there?
Yeah, a lot of them. I mean, the book isn't really about me, but people do want to know who I am. So I do include a little bit of that in the book. And that is really that is what I write about when I write about myself, is this transformation that I had. I mean, I remember I was probably like 13 or 14 years old, and I had this music teacher, my private viola teacher. I really loved her. She was an older woman, and she was like this really cool artist, just like we lived in a rural town in Illinois, and she was like super far out, and there was whatever was going on in the Supreme Court, and it was like her, me, like two other women. We had our little coat hangers. Something was going on with reproductive rights, and the four of us were marching around a circle in front of the county courthouse. I was just like all about this sort of old school feminism, which is we don't have reproductive rights anymore. That is still absolutely critical. So that is happening, right? That is happening. And we still have, there's so much inequality in the public sphere in terms of corporate leadership, maybe pay gap, but I hope that many important holes in that. So that can be happening, that women are at a disadvantage in the public sphere. But then at the exact same moment, at the same time, and boys are at a huge disadvantage, certainly in the private sphere, in our homes, in families. Because when people divorce, case in point, which is now so common, right? It is so mainstream. The dads lose their kids every other weekend is not being a dad. So how can we say there is not sexism against men when we are taking kids away from their fathers? They don't have reproductive rights when somebody's pregnant, and they don't have rights to their children if they're not married. And then they don't have any rights to their children if they're not living in the same home as them. They have to fight tooth and nail and may not be successful at all. So how can we say that sexism is one gendered? It just simply is not. And I would call out my fellow feminists, if we only want to measure equality by money, that's easy and lazy. We can look and see how many judges are men versus women. We can look and see how many corporate CEOs are men versus women, how many startups get funded men versus women. Those are numbers, and we can see numbers, and we can pass judgment if that's good or bad. Okay, that's lazy. Because let's look at a more holistic view of humanity and what is happening right now. Is money the most important thing in your life? It might be. It's the most important thing in my life at many moments. That's cool. But I got a lot of things going on in my life, right? I have love. I have love for my children. I have a boy and a girl. I have love in my romantic life. I think about that all the time. Love for my boyfriend. If I don't have a boyfriend, where's my next boyfriend? Where's my next date? Like, that's in my mind. Do I care about men? I absolutely do. Right? Do I care about what's happening in the world? Do I care that men are dying from deaths of despair, drug overdoses, and suicides, and heartbreak, frankly, depression, more than women, that they're falling behind economically and academically? Like, I care because I'm just an everyday person, not a special Mother Teresa. I'm just a normal person who cares, right? So that's where I think I do. I mean, absolutely, mainstream feminism is getting there. We're just a little behind the curve, and I'm hoping to nudge the needle a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I think the feminism movement has certainly gone through several waves, and I've seen some news stories where former feminists have really just kind of tried to get rid of the connection to that feminist name, because some people believe it's gone too far, and so what's your thoughts around that? I mean, has feminism kind of turned a corner? Is there some new direction there for it?
I say it. Maybe I need to reconsider calling myself that. I mean, I define feminism as gender equality, and we don't have it. So if people want to like identify feminism with, the old feminists, which the old feminists are holding this movement back, the equal parenting, they are stuck in a narrative. It's like they've done their work, ladies. Thank you for your work. I would not be sitting here today if it were not for you. I would not be voting. I would not be making a living. I would not be safe. I would not have access to the pill. I'm old. Who are we kidding? Right. Thank you. I see that. Thank you for your service. But the narratives that accomplish all these incredibly important things needs to be revisited because we have other important things that are happening. And maybe it's like the pendulum has swung too far. And that is how history works, right? Is an overcorrection. It is not out of necessarily malice or people are being blazing jerks. It just happens. Honestly, I think that we have overcorrected out of the goodness of humanity, right? But now we have to wake up, look at the numbers, the stats are there, and let's make some good on that.
Yeah, have you seen? There's an interesting meme that's kind of just hit the internet this week, and it's something about a gal posted a thing about, hey, I'm going to drop the kids off with dad for 30 days, and he can't call me, and let's see how he survives with the kids for 30 days. And I've seen a lot of the groups in the shared parenting, movement. They've kind of jumped all over this and said, "Bring it on," and dads are
Mm-hmm.
not. Inept creatures that can't take care of kids. That's a stereotype that's old. But what's your thoughts on that? And have you seen that meme?
I missed it, but I get it. I have experienced that sentiment very much. And, it's such a simplistic notion to be like, I'm overwhelmed as a mom. He's not doing his share, you know. Nice knowing you doesn't know that feeling, right?
Right. Yeah.
Whether you're married or not, like even if you're married with like a very healthy relation or co-parenting, cohabiting, very healthy, equally involved people, you still get resentful at your partner because there's always something to argue about, right? Or you just overwhelmed to take it out on people closest. But again, I say it many times in the book, like it's equal rights and equal responsibility, and that goes to everybody. So to the guys, I'm going to call you guys out, right? You want equal rights. You want to have the rights to your kids, but that means taking equal responsibility, and that's not just taking the kids 50% of the calendar, right? It is, there's the whole other part is, oh my gosh, even my kids are teenagers and can schedule a lot of their stuff. I'm like, just the emails and the scheduling and the signups and the teacher meeting. There's just so much stuff buzzing around. I can't keep my calendar straight, right? Like that is a big part of calendar, right? It's investing in relationships with your kids' friends. It's like keeping like there's so many parts of parenting that are go far beyond the hours, right? And it's not about showing up if you want, it's showing up because you're responsible. You have a right and a responsibility. We all have the right to vote. You have a responsibility to vote. It's not optional, right? It's being paying homage to our forefathers who fought for us. It's about being a good citizen. In this case, it's about your responsibility to your kid and your co-parent and your community because this makes for healthy citizens when we raise our kids this way. So that goes to the guys. And to the women, it really plays into a lot of things. So if you have the rights, because right now women do have the majority of rights when it comes to family, you have the rights to those kids. You have a responsibility to be a good steward of that power and make sure that your kid's dad has those kids 50% of the time. And if he doesn't want to, that you're nurturing that, doing your very best to nurture that in the best way. Maybe he's not going to show up, but maybe you can find a way to do it in a loving way. Or maybe loving isn't working and you take him to court. Maybe that's going to work, right? There's not one path. So that's the parenting side to women, I would say. And then the financial side is I'm all about zero child support. Really, there is no pay gap. This idea that we can be like living off of each other's income because once upon a time we had sex, it's just bananas. It makes no common sense. It only causes conflict between people. It alienates dads. It pisses off mom. It's just get the money out of it. Everybody has equal opportunity to work and earn, especially if we're doing 50-50 schedules. So everybody, we just have to get the money out of it. So that's why I say to the women, just because you have the right to take him to court for child support that he may or may not be able to afford, you have to be a steward of that power again. Is that the right thing to do just because you can? Right? That doesn't make any common sense. You want to have some self-respect, go earn your own money, take that conflict out of the co-parenting, and just start it is dinging his ability to show for his kids. Maybe he has to take a second job or work some gig economy schedule where he can have a regular schedule to see his kids or live with a roommate, which isn't great. Like all of these things, just take it out of be responsible. You have the right to work and earn and be independent. work in order to be independent. That's your responsibility because you're that right.
Yeah, I mean it's certainly such a hot button topic, when it comes to the money and family court, and of course many of the family courts, and in fact, really haven't heard of any of them that kind of get the money thing right. They use outdated formulas, and they order child support that's usually above and well beyond what people think is reasonable, and it just it creates so much conflict, and it's great to see that you're encouraging folks on both sides to just, do their part and do what's best for the kids. Cause, and we all know in co-parenting, when you, do make your decisions, which, is best for the kids, that's really how you keep the conflict out of it.
Well, and what's best for yourself? Be selfish about it. Does it feel good to like stick it to him for really it's usually a couple $100 a month? Does that feel good? Is it really what you want to model for your daughters? Be selfish. It doesn't feel good. It feels good to be independent. It feels good not to fight. It feels good for him not to be scrutinizing everything that you, like your new clothes or having your nails done when you see him. That doesn't feel good. Do what feels good.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's get into the book a little bit. What was the genesis behind writing the book, and how long did it take you?
Oh, writing a book. It took me multiple years to write it. I got I this is my second traditionally published book. And so let's see, my agent sold it a few years ago and it took me a long time. And it's very deeply researched. I mean, it goes way deep into the science, and I interviewed many people, academics and lawyers, and a lot of just everyday people. And so my goal really was to just, I have a lot to say on the topic. I've been working on this issue for a long time and just write a really solid mainstream book, not an academic book, um, just a mainstream book making this argument. And I mean, I'm really a marketer is my main skill set. And like they always say, like if you try to market to everyone, you market to no one, right? You have to go really focused. But I really do think there's obviously for parents, I want think hopefully this is hopeful and useful, and just practical, like really hoping to change people's minds. And but that goes beyond that. I think that where's the sources of power in this? Like the legal community, I think could benefit from this. And there is, I'm so hopeful. And I wanted to spend some time talking about my optimism in this movement. I have been working on this movement for like, 8 or 9, 10 years. And it is like unbelievable how much positive momentum there's going. Like the laws are changing, yes, but I'm really like interested in the culture and what people just do organically without a judge telling them or a lawyer nudging them. Like just what's sweeping the nation, just organically, people like the younger people. I've been divorced for 15 years now, and just young parents going through it like have a completely different mindset and better mindset than I did. It's beautiful. So anyway, so the book, I'm just like, here's all the information, here's all the science. Just do what I tell you, okay? Just do it. All right. So it's a book. I mean, people will read the book or they won't read the book. I mean, they'll watch a podcast or read an article that features me, like features the message. I just one more tool because for the last few years I've been just investing my time and other financial resources in media projects. It's just my way of giving back. I don't write checks to NPO. I just do these media projects I put out. And things, again, I see women, especially, well, all women, but I mean, my ecosystem is educated white women, and I see them as a like essential source of power on this issue. So I'm like, if I can change some hearts and minds, it takes a long time to do that, but if I can start changing hearts and minds, we can make some movement in this country.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen the shared parenting polling across the country, and it doesn't matter if we poll red states or purple states or blue states, the sentiment is all the same. And what's interesting is we've seen a shift over time. So I know my state in Kansas was one of the first states, to be polled, and it polled in the 80s. Now we're seeing, other states that are being polled in the low to mid 90s. As far as the sentiment towards this. So, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
nationwide, the people are really recognizing that, having, fair and equal arrangements post divorce really is what the people want. And, we've seen the legal system be a little bit slow to take up on that, although we've had some states now pass shared parenting laws, which is fantastic. And I think it's just a matter of time before all the other states sort of fall in line. But what's interesting to me, though, is, just in talking with people, how they're just doing shared parenting without having a judge tell them, because that's, the both sides really realize the benefit, right? Mom can go now have her time to go work or do whatever she wants to do. And, dad shares the load and, has a bond with the children and all that kind of stuff. So, yeah, to me, it's been interesting to see the sort of the population of the younger generation just sort of embrace this without having a judge telling them what to do. And we still need the laws for that small percentage of the population which deals with very high conflict people. I think they're still needed for that. But yeah, it's been great to see the younger generation sort of get into this and just accept it, which I think is pretty awesome. Is that what you've been
Well,
seeing
that's
as
the most
well?
powerful thing. I mean, I really make the argument like if we have strong culture, we don't need to spend our energy passing these laws. And I have seen really where policy efforts can do more harm than good, right? So if you are, because what happens in the United States and I think around the world, you have a bill and you want to get it some positive attention, an equal parenting bill. Well, as you said, the majority of people have support shared parenting, equal parenting. The vast majority of people get it. But if you read the news article in your local newspaper about this, it's 50%, shared parenting's good, and 50% domestic, it's going to incite, women are going to be murdered by their partners, right? That's what the news article is, 50-50. So then the person who's like trying to sort it out in earnest is like, oh, I don't know, it's like 50-50. I'm not so sure, right? It just gives a megaphone to the uneducated opponents. Denmark, a great example. They have everybody is 50-50 there. It's like one of the most great success stories, and they don't have any laws on the books. It's a lot easier to convince, for example, a judge, a lawyer, a family therapist, young parents about 50-50 parenting than it is to do something like a bill. But we're not doing a lot of that work in this country. And I think that's really where I feel called. Like I'm a media professional. I'm like, well, how can I leverage those skills to make this work? Because I don't see a lot of that education happening. It's like a lot of ecosystems. Like, no offense, but I don't need NPO, right? Everyone in NPO believes exactly what I believe. We need to get our message outside of NPO, out into the world. So that's really what my goal is.
Yeah, getting outside the echo chamber is definitely important. And what has really surprised me in the family law professionals that I've talked to about the research is they don't believe a lot of it. They find one bit of research which agrees with whatever their personal view is, and they go, "Well, this is the right study." And you're like, "Well, what about these other 20 over here that that contradict that?" There's a larger, stronger body of research to say that your opinion's wrong, but they find one article that sort of says what they want it to say, and then all of a sudden, that's what they believe. So to me, it's been frustrating.
Right. Yeah, it is like that is how change happens. But I think that it calls on the activists, that calls on you and me to learn how to change minds. That's, I mean, that's an art and a science. Like, here's the research, read it, change your mind. That's not effective,
Yeah.
right? Like that's amateur, right? So it's like anything else. Like that's why we need good lobbyists. That's why we need to invest in media campaigns. And oh God, I mean, my dream would be to have like the ad council, right? That did like like the
Absolutely.
federal
Yeah.
investment in public good campaigns, media campaigns, leveraging mass advertising campaigns for the public good. We could start to incubate those. I have so many ideas, things we could incubate that even on like a county level, right? And then learn from that and figure out how to do that on a state level and then take that national, right? I mean, that's something I would get behind. I think people with money, like, there's plenty of affluent people that would invest in something like that if we can come to them and show we're changing minds, because the movement has not been successful at changing laws. On one hand, we don't not had many equal parenting laws, but I will say the movement's been very successful at chipping away at very important things like sexist language and family law, right? We don't say like the moms and dad, it's parents, right? We say things like instead of custody, we say parenting time. We have gotten the tender years doctrine is mostly off the books. Like we've really cleansed the language, and language is important. I hope so. I'm a writer. So there's been zillions of micro successes through the decades. We've been had a ton of big giant whammies.
Well, we're getting close to the end of time here. Is there anything else you want to talk about before we signed off?
No, I just want people to find kind and supportive ways to talk to people in their lives about equal parenting, right? If you have a family member that's facing that, it's like, you know, I know he's a jerk and, he's maybe a crappy boyfriend, but, he always say he's such a good dad. And I've just been reading so much about why that 50-50 number is so important. And I know you're wrapped up in this right now, but in a minute you're going to want to work more and date. So just do 50-50. That's what people are doing. There is a kind and loving way to approach this that can work.
Absolutely. And tell us again where people can find you. You've got a couple of websites here. I think one is
Just
wealthysinglemommy.com.
Yeah, that's my business site. But really, I mean, honestly, if you go to Amazon, the Amazon site, or my Twitter, just so the book is 50-50 solution. And then the Amazon site is, my Twitter is Johnson Emma.
All right, and we'll link to both of those in the show notes, so you can go to those. Just go below the video or on the article, and we'll put the links there. So, Emma, thank you so much for coming on. We really appreciate having you, and we wish you the best of luck with this book.
Yeah, I really appreciate it. Thanks for all your work, Chris.